Hey there! I was contacted by Sam, and Sam had used two fairly inexpensive pens that he said I should try too, and he sent me two. These are the Zebra Fuente pens. They're disposable fountain pens, and they look like this. Now, this is pretty interesting. I have reviewed the Pilot Varsity, aka the V pen, and please excuse me as I pour some tea. That is a disposable pen made by Pilot, and I was actually quite surprised by the quality of that pen. And these Zebra pens, I have to say, are not exactly terrible either. Now, they are disposable pens. I have two, a blue one and a black one. Blue ink and black ink in them as well. As you can see, the colors are different, but apart from that, they're the same pen. So I'm just going to take the blue pen here, because I think that blue shows you a little bit more detail than black. I'm going to cover the parts of the pen toe, what I like about it, what I don't like about it, and then I'll do a writing sample. Let's start at the finial, right there on top of the cap. You got that little blue thing, and then you have the clip. The clip is all clear plastic, as is the cap, blue clear plastic, and guess what? They didn't even put an ugly white inner cap in the clear cap, which is quite interesting. Okay, then we have the barrel. The barrel just tapers down, and it has some type of, I guess, a bit of a swirly pattern on there. It says Zebra Fuente, and then it says a disposable fountain pen. Now, this is like the Varsity. What you can do is just, well, pretty much take a pair of pliers, pull the nib and feed, pour ink in there, and then use it again. I have not tried this, so I can't tell you if it works, because it's full of ink right now. It'll be a bit of a waste. You cannot see the ink level through the barrel, but there is an ink window right there. I'm not sure how well you can see that with the light. Oh no, you can see that. There's an air bubble in there, and when I turn it around, you see that ink flows in there. The feed and section, I think, are quite reminiscent of the Platinum Preppy, which has that see-through section with a big nib, a big feed that goes all the way around, which is quite nice. What I found very fascinating was the nib, because I don't know, guys, but that really looks like a Pilot nib to me. The same nib that you find, for example, on the Petit one. That's fascinating. Maybe Pilot makes these pens for Zebra. I have not researched that. I'm sorry. Feel free to do that if you feel so inclined. But it looks a lot like that. Okay, on the back end you have this feed. The nib is sort of clipped onto. As you can see, the pen posts, and it makes for a very nice and decent size, I would say. It's quite light, very plasticky, but you know, that's what you get when a pen's made of plastic. And even unposted, you could definitely use it. Okay, what do I like about this pen? What do I not like about the pen? Well, let's start with what I like. To be honest, it's not terrible. The nib writes. It gives a decent ink flow. It doesn't run dry. It will definitely give you a bit of feedback as you write, but actually, in all, I have to say, I think it's a pretty smooth nib, especially considering the price. I have used scratchier nibs, so that is quite nice. Then, what do I mean, in general, I mean, I don't think the design is that bad. It looks a bit like a fine liner or an inexpensive rollerball, something like that. But it's not bad. The blue plastic, I think, is quite nice. It's nice that it's somewhat see-through. It's very nice that you have an ink window, because you can't just open up this pen and see how much ink is left in the cartridge or the converter. So the ink window is quite nice. And on the black one, you have a similar thing. So as you can see, there's a bit of an ink window there too, but with black ink it's a little bit harder to see. But, you know, similar idea. And the black one works fine too, so actually quite impressive. Okay, things I don't like about the pen. Well, why use a disposable fountain pen, right? If you buy a fountain pen, get something, either use it with cartridges or a converter, or maybe even a piston-filled pen, but then you can use bottled ink, or at the very least cartridges, which you can keep replenishing. With a disposable pen, obviously, once it runs dry, it's gone, unless you do stuff to refill it, but as I said, the pens are not designed to do so. So, in principle, it's a disposable pen. I think that's a bit of a waste, right? because you have to throw it out. But on the other hand, if you're starting out with fountain pens, you're not sure whether these are the writing instruments for you, it's quite nice to be able to buy something that's not too expensive, and once it runs out, you just throw it away. And you don't have to, you can go on to rollerballs or ballpoints or mechanical pencils, whatever is the right thing for you. Also, of course, what comes to mind is children. I have to say they're maybe a bit big for children, but they have a fairly chunky grip section, so I think a child could easily hold that. And once it runs out, it runs out. I mean, clearly you're not going to give your 5-year-old nephew a 149 Mont Blanc, right? So in that regard, I think these pens do offer some interesting options. Okay, having said that, I think we should take a couple of measurements, and after that, we should do a writing sample. Let's see. Capped. They're fairly big, about 140 millimeters. Uncapped, we have 125 millimeters. Section diameter at the narrowest point is about 10 millimeters, and at the widest point it's about 11 millimeters. Now we have the weight, and bear in mind that's a barrel full of ink. The weight comes down to 14 grams exactly. So it is definitely fairly light. And there you have it. Sam, thanks a lot for sending me these pens. I enjoy using them, and I'm sure that people will appreciate this, especially, as I said, people who are looking to get into pens. Guys, I hope this was useful, and writing sample, and then I hope to see you later. Bye-bye. Okay, let's have a look at these Zebra Fuente pens. I've got two, but of course they're roughly the same. Now, I'm going to use both, maybe not as extensively, but equally extensively. We have a Zebra Fuente. That's the the blue. I couldn't. My head was going faster than my mouth. This happens sometimes. And incidentally, that's what I told her. Now, there you have the black. Let's do a bit of writing. Really smooth experience. Maybe you feel a little bit of a touch of feedback, but in all, I would say this is a very nice and actually smooth experience. What I mean by feedback is just a bit of feedback as you write. You feel that you are writing, but there is no scratchiness, there is no bits where the nib gets snagged on the paper or anything. That was a very weird word, but lazy dog. Alright, fast writing. As you can see, the pen keeps up very well. Very cool. Wetness, no complaints there. I have to say, I think this is a pretty fast drying ink, so that may not give you the impression that it's very wet, but it does put down a nice even amount of ink, and it is quite wet. It's just a fast drying ink, which is also nice because when you write, you see this part is already dry. So these would also be nice pens for left-handers, just because they will not smear as they write. They will not smear the ink because it dries very quickly, which is also cool. Alright, what about line variation? Now, I'm not expecting too much in this regard. But as you can see, you can squeeze out a little bit, but it's almost not noticeable, and I'm assuming this pen is the same deal. Yeah. So don't expect too much. Reverse writing, it's possible to get a pretty fine line, but I mean, to be honest, these things are pretty fine to start with anyway. I would say you get something between a medium and a fine in these nibs. But, you know, pretty cool. And of course, if you have two, the trick is to do the sort of double Gothic letters. Now, guys, I hope this was useful. Sam, thanks for sending me these pens to review. I'm sure that people really appreciate this because they're pretty cool starter pens. Guys, I hope you think this was useful, and I'll gladly see you later. Bye-bye.